Yeah, so Diane is my neighbour, and she heard me perform for the first time yesterday, and there's a whole reason for that. One of the songs that you just heard me walk in with there is one of my own songs, and it's going to be on my debut album, as Diane said, that was supported by Creative Scotland, and it's getting released at Celtic Connections in January. Woo! And the song is called Little Bird, Little Sailor. I have two little boys, my little birds and my little sailor. And I wrote this song for them, so I thought I wrote it to inspire them when I'm not here to give them that inspiring message, so something that would go on further than me. But when I got to the end of it, I actually realised it was a massive note to self, and you'll understand why. So I'm going to use the lyrics of this song that's also on the debut album as a help for me to shape my talk today. So the song's called Little Bird, Little Sailor. Little bird, there's a big world out there to be found. Now, we all knew that when we were kids. We could be brain surgeons, scientists, rocket scientists, whatever you wanted to be. And we knew that because we had this personal sat-nav, this little voice inside us that told us, this is my role, this is how I connect in the world. I first heard my little voice when I was 8, and my dad brought this big brick of a cassette player back from for my birthday or something. And I remember my little tiny fingers pushing really hard on that triangle play button, because I was only wee and those buttons were stiff. But when I did, I heard this voice. It was Karen Carpenter singing Rainy Days and Mondays. And geez, it's the first time in my life I felt goosebumps. I sat perched on the side of my bed, still, just totally captivated with this voice. I didn't know who she was, but it just made me feel something inside. It was like every atom of my being at that point knew that there had been a connection. This voice had imprinted on me, and I knew I was supposed to connect with the world with music the same way that Karen Carpenter had connected in me. And I had unwavering faith in that little voice. And it was all about the connection that had been made in that moment in time. Got your wings all ready, but your feet won't leave the ground. My house was a happy house. It's one of those ones, Sunday morning, the smell of coffee percolating mixed with the smell of cakes baking in the oven. And my mum had such an eclectic taste of music. So the soundtrack of Sunday morning would be Eva Cassidy, Nina Simone, Pavarotti, Cavaliere Rusticana. It didn't matter what genre, as long as it made us feel good and we could dance around while we were doing the housework, then that was what was played. And again, my little voice was happy because it knew music was my connection to my own. It's like the jigsaw puzzle. That was my piece of jigsaw puzzle in the wider world. So my little voice was happy. But then I went to school and I heard other people's voices. And they didn't say the same thing as my little voice. My mum and dad had saved up to get my sister and I piano lessons, and I loved sitting for hours at the piano and playing. But when I got to school, I was told, you're not perfect, so therefore you will never be a pianist. Okay, and you can sing, but you don't have a massive vocal range, so you will never be a singer. And I was always a very shy, kind of introverted girl, big, tall, gangly, and they said, you're too shy, you're too quiet. You will never be able to stand up in front of 200-odd people and speak, never mind sing. So all I heard was, you can't. And then I heard that you should. And I remember my career advisor telling me I should be a librarian. Jeez, that was not a career choice in the end, just so you know. So yeah, this little voice started to get quieter, and it got pushed almost to the whisper section of my heart. Don't let your fear of falling stop you taking to the sky. So I still really loved music, but these new little voices of my own came in, and it was the voices of resistance and fear. You're not good enough. You are too shy. You aren't not perfect. You don't have Whitney's range. But what I didn't know at that point in my life is that, oh no, I didn't. I wasn't made to regurgitate other people's music. I wasn't born to be Whitney. That was Whitney's job. I was supposed to create my own, but that's my adult voice speaking, not this little voice. So we'll stick with little voice just now. So what happened at school when it came to career choices? Instead of going for art and music and all the creative topics, I chose the safe route. And what I did is I built this cage, this security cage around me. And the choices I went for were economics and accounts and all the jobs that would get me, or all the subjects that would get me a safe job, a good career. But I was a little bird flapping in there. And although I got straight A's, I had to work blooming hard for those. And I think I had to work extra hard because they weren't in my flow. I was that little bird flapping. Once you learn to fall with grace, then you'll truly fly. So I got those straight A's. I went to uni, got straight A's. I went into university lecturing, then I went into HR. I had, the career. I had too much to lose. I was a size 8, okay, a size 10, okay, a size 12. I was a size 12. I had the status of the managerial role. I had too much to lose. There was no way that I could give in to that little voice now and say, music, that's your connection, that's what you're supposed to do. So what I started to do with that little voice was resent it. Not only did I keep it in the whisper section of my heart, but I just wouldn't talk to it. If it tried to raise its voice at all, no. I would sit at the piano every now and again, and instead of feeling the joy that I felt as a child, it made me sad. It made me sad inside, and I think it was just the disconnection with what I was supposed to do. This is the chorus. What will be, will be. Breathe in, breathe out. Lose the doubt. Have some faith and believe. I did none of that. I had no faith in myself. I had the lowest self-esteem. And I didn't believe what my little voice told me was true. It got it wrong. Little sailor, storms are brewing, deep desire for something more. If you don't listen to that little voice, it becomes impatient, and at some point in your life, it will scream. So for me, the storm hit. I had the love of my life, who'd married him for 6 months, and then we were in a car crash. And overnight, I went from that size, what was it again, 12? Stick with 12, be safe. I went from size 12 business suit into not being able to feed myself. And it took years of having to use wheelchairs and walking sticks, as some people in this audience know. But I did it, it's been so, thank the Lord for the NHS and all the amazing and inspirational people that have helped me. I have an amazing support network, brilliant family. I know that a lot of people don't have that. I've been very fortunate. But that's when the little voice started screaming, because it was hard. I had lost my identity. I tried to get back to work, but physical incapacity at that point, I just couldn't continue in my career. So I really hit rock bottom. And it was at that point when I hit rock bottom that the little voice started shrieking, you need to write. All this pain, all this despair that you're feeling, it will help, it will heal. And so one night, I think I spent about 3 hours and I poured my heart out, and it was honest. It came from not even my heart, it came from my soul. And I wrote a song called Alone Here With Me, and it's also now 17 years later on the album. And when you listen to that song, you hear the despair, and it's real. But there was also a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel in that song too, because all of a sudden, I had actually written a song, and it created in me a new possibility. But I wasn't quite ready yet. I wasn't ready to admit this is what I should be doing. Got your boat all ready, but it just won't leave the shore. I still had the fear. But this time I wasn't sure what I was actually afraid of. Was it fear of failure or fear of success? But as it happened, it wasn't the right time. And I know it wasn't the right time because if I had written the 11 original songs that are on the album back then, they would not be this set of songs. And these are the set of songs that are going to connect with so many people on so many levels. And I have that unwavering faith because that's what my little voice told me. And now I believe it. So it wasn't the right time for music, but it was the right time to create my own little bird and my own little sailor. I'm very, very blessed. You know, staring at the water ain't going to get you across the sea. We all know we've been there with, if only. You know, we're waiting for somebody else to help us. Do it yourself. You don't need somebody else to give you that. You need that little voice inside you to tell you and for you to listen. This time I had my kids. I had a reason greater than myself to do this. How can I tell my kids to listen to their own little voices? Follow your dreams, do what makes you happy, when I wasn't doing it myself. So I had a reason greater than myself to follow that little voice. People will not always be as supportive. When you say all these labels that have been attached to me for so long, I'm just ripping them up. And I'm going to put some new ones. And one of them is going to be singer-songwriter. And you expect everybody to go, yay! They don't. In fact, you know all the little voices of fear, all of those, they start to appear in other people. And other people start to tell you about all the fears that they have for you. And first of all, it kind of hurts because you're expecting their support. And when you don't get it right off, it can be confusing. But then I learned a phrase, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that you have fear for me? That you feel the need to share that fear, that you love me enough to want to protect me. And once you start to acknowledge that that's what it is, it's actually a fear wrapped in love, then you can move on. So I had this, but how do I actually set sail? Got this idea, finally listened to my voice. I didn't know how to get demos. And again, I didn't really want to tell anybody what I was doing. So I created my own demos, and then I went to a singer-songwriter whose work I admire for a long time called Ben Glover. I went to one of his concerts in Glasgow, and he gave me the time and listened to these songs. And he wrote me an email later on and said, you know, these are really good, and this is the phrase. What are you thinking about doing with them? I was like, what? That probably to Ben was a bit of a throwaway comment almost. But what that was, to me, was a possibility. Somebody who really knows how to write music has said, there's a potential for a next step. In your boat, safe in port is not where you're meant to be. So at that point, I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And as soon as I listened to that little voice, a shift happened inside. And once the shift happened inside, things started changing outside. I started slowly to remove the cage that I had built for myself. I have to, take full responsibility. And I started to remove the old labels. And, I still say it with a bit of a giggle. I am a singer-songwriter. But at least I'm saying it, I'm admitting it. And a liberating thought was, it's not my job to convince other people over and over that I'm starting, finally, to listen to my little voice. I am still terrified every day. But the difference is I use fear as a direction marker. I'm at the beginning of a very steep learning curve every day. And I acknowledge that, and I know and accept that's what it is. Little bird, little sailor, time to see of what you are made. Ben put me in touch with NASHVILLE Songwriters International, and with very shaky hands, I sent off my demo songs to them. And they came back and awarded me one to watch. They put one of my songs in their global top 40. It came in number 2. And from that, I thought, wow, maybe, I've started listening to my little voice. This could be my path. And so I had lots of different demos and songs, and I thought, again, with shaky hands, I contacted a guy called Finlay Napier, who's an amazing musician himself, and said, Finlay, will you, and with closed eyes, will you produce my album? And he said, yes. And then that gave me a little bit of courage to go and speak to a man called Paul Savage, who is an award-winning engineer. He's worked with Mogwai, Franz Ferdinand, Deacon Blue. And I thought, right, I'm on a roll. The little voice says, send the email. He said yes. So I had these amazing people on board, didn't have the money to fund it. So I got in touch with Creative Scotland and spent hours on this application. They said no. I cried for about a day and a bit. And then I thought, okay, don't give up. Little voice says go again. Found what the gaps were in the application, filled them, reapplied, got accepted. So I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. So now, because I listened to my little voice, I believed in myself, this year alone, I have worked with amazing photographers, Chris Keziak. I've opened for William Michael Morgan, Danny Schmidt. Danny Schmidt is one of the top 50 songwriters in the world. And Eric Pasley, who's written 5 US #1s. I've performed with him. I did a mini tour with Michael Logan, who's an award-winning singer-songwriter. And I've written with award-winning duo Raintown. In a year, this has happened in the space of a year, when I finally listened to that little voice and just went with it. On the album, you'll hear the soaring pedal steel of this guy here, Ian Sloan. Patsy Reed has put in some epic strings on this album. I cry when I listen to it. Ewan Burton, who tours with people like Eddie Reader, he's played bass on it. And I keep thinking, oh, you know, the bubble must burst. But then the little voice says, no, you're on the right path. And like attracts like. They can see something in you that sometimes you don't even see in yourself. What will be, will be. Breathe in, breathe out, lose the doubt. Have some faith and believe. Look what happened when I finally did that. So just enjoy the wind beneath you. Have some fun, jump in the waves. Most days I'm still like this. I do not have a clue what's going to happen with this debut album, which is, by the way, on pre-sale in the hall. Little click there. But yeah, I mean, most of the days I've got 2 little ones. They've got after-school clubs. I've got a house to run. I'm still a wife. I have a part-time job because you have to pay the bills. And music is hopefully going to be a full-time job at one point. But you don't do this for the love of money. You do it for the love of music. So yeah, I'm learning to enjoy the wind beneath me. And I am having fun jumping every wave. And they're all little waves. And I get excited about each one. But I am having so much fun with it. I even got to play at Nashville's iconic Bluebird Cafe this year. That's my husband. He does exist. He's usually the one taking the photos. He's never in it. Life is fragile. I learned that more this year than anything else. See resistance for what it is. It's just fear wrapped in love sometimes. And listen to that little voice. You know the one that I'm talking about. You're hearing it and it's going, yep, told you so, right now in your head. Okay, I'm a little bit over the 18 minutes, but I will still, if you don't mind, I would like to perform that song for you. Yeah, just that last slide, I'd forgotten about that one. I got my first review of the debut album. Trying to open that email with the first review was so nerve-wracking. It was from Fatea magazine, who've been reviewing albums for the last 30 years, and they said it was one of the best debut albums they'd heard in years. I know it all begins with a song, but I mean, there's so much work and so many other people involved in that. But Maverick magazine gave it 4 stars, and they called it majestic. And yeah, I keep waiting for the first one to come in that's negative, but I really shouldn't say that because this is all about being positive, isn't it? But yeah, so yeah, right now I'm in a good place, and I'm feeling that I'm going with the flow because I'm finally listening to my voice. And I hope that whoever, even if it's just one person in this room that I'm talking to right now with what I'm saying, I hope you really do take the chance and follow what your little voice says. Try and get this mic here. Okay. Yay. Little bird, there's a big world out there to be found. Got your wings already, but your feet won't leave the ground. Don't let your fear of falling stop you taking to your skies. Once you learn to fall with grace, then you'll truly fly. What will be, will be. What will be, will be. So breathe in, breathe out, lose the doubt, have some faith and believe. What will be, will be. Little sailor storms are brewing, deep desire for something more. Got your boat already, but it just won't leave the shore. You know, staring at the water ain't gonna get you across your sea. In your boat safe and port is not where you're meant to be. No, no, what will be, will be. What will be, will be. So breathe in, breathe out, lose the doubt, have some faith and believe. What will be, will be. So just enjoy the wind beneath you, have some fun jumping the waves. Little bird, little sailor, time to see of what you are made. Whoa, whoa. What will be, will be. What will be, will be. So breathe in, breathe out, lose the doubt, have some faith and believe. What will be, will be. What will be, will be. Yeah. So breathe in, breathe out, and don't take yourself so seriously. Breathe in, breathe out, and don't take yourself so seriously. Thank you so much.